Greetings, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of season 6 of the Lyons Quiz League. We are back after a very solid week number 1 where I finished in second place. I guess you guys can't see the names, but anyway, there I am, second place. So we're headed into week 2. I'm going to try and repeat that performance, although I'm not sure I'm going to do quite as well, but honestly, I still think I have a pretty decent week, so we shall see. Anyway, quiz number 1, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It is a general knowledge quiz written by Benny. First of all, since 2003, which R&B group has been a trio with 2 of its members having the last name Morris? This group's most successful songs, including I'll Make Love to You and Unbended Knee, were made in the 90s while the group had 4 members. I have no idea. I'm going to guess Run DMC because that is, I think, a group that exists and maybe is R&B. But I don't know a lot about this kind of stuff. And I don't have a better guess than this, so yeah. Question 2. What mathematician, this question does not have a number, interesting. What mathematician gives his name to a set of numbers that can be constructed using the process below, where each iteration produces a set that is 2/3 the size of the set before it, blah, blah, blah. So this is called the Cantor set. So Georg Cantor is his name. I remember learning about this in real analysis class, which actually had Benny in it. So we took this class together, but we did talk a little bit about the Cantor set in that class. Pretty interesting thing. Question number 3. Blank Supremacy Ultimatum. Above are the last words in the titles of 2 of the 3 movies in a certain franchise. What word fills in the blank? So these are the Bourne movies. I think I've seen the first 2. I don't think I ever saw Ultimatum, but anyway, I've seen Bourne Identity for sure, and I think also Supremacy. Anyway, so identity is the last word in the name of the first movie, and then born is the word that comes before all of these. So this one will be identity. Question number 4. When the 3 magi visited Jesus, they brought him a gift each. One of these gifts was gold, and the other 2 were plant-derived substances, both of which are rarely used today. The other 2 are frankincense and myrrh. Famously, the 3 gifts are gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which I have to assume had values that were similar at that time, because otherwise it just seems like the first one who gave him gold was like super generous and the other 2 were like, here, have some random plant resin. But I assume back in the day those actually meant something, even though now no one really cares about him or really knows what they are. Question 5. Acton Bell is a bit of a literary odd duck. The first novels published by Acton's siblings Currer and Ellis have become widely renowned and brought their authors posthumous fame, but Acton's 2 novels, though still well regarded, are far less well known. Acton Currer and Ellis Bell are pseudonyms for writers with what last name? So Currer Bell, I believe, is Charlotte Bronte. I guess Acton, presumably Ellis is Anne, because that's Wuthering Heights, but I can't remember, or sorry, not Anne, Emily. Sorry, Anne is the one who's less noteworthy. So I'm guessing Anne is Acton, although I wasn't sure which was which, but I'm pretty sure Kerr is Charlotte. Anyway, these are the Bronte sisters. And finally, impeachment proceedings in South Korea's National Assembly require a 2/3 supermajority to be passed. This occurred in late 2016 when which former president was impeached and later imprisoned for abusing her power. Her father was also president of South Korea, but thankfully they accept a family name. I'm reasonably confident that it's Park. I know it's one of the really common South Korean names. I think Park is the one. I don't think it's Kim because, obviously that's the North Korean one. I think it's Park. I'm not 100% sure, but I hope so. And if you ask me to name the first name, there's no way I could do it. So I'm glad they're being nice on this question. So, as for what to enhance here, Run DMC is wrong, probably. Cantor, I think, is a decent one. The Bourne movies are pretty well known. 4 is easy. 6 is probably easy-ish. 5, I don't know. I don't know how well known the pseudonyms of the Brontes are, but I feel like the Cantor set is not trivial knowledge, so I'll probably go ahead and enhance number 2, even though people in LDQL tend to be pretty good at math. Oh, nice. Didn't even make me do the CAPTCHA. Identity, Bronte. So Anne was Acton. Yeah, Emily was Ellis. Charlotte was Carr. Oh. They're the same. That makes sense. They have the same initials, which I don't know how I didn't even think of that, but okay. So Park was correct. Frankincense and Myrrh, Identity, and Cantor. So that's 5 out of 6. Boys to Men. I've heard of them, but I'm never ever getting that. So I am perfectly happy with that for quiz number 1. So on we go. Quiz number 2. These questions were written for past quizzes but were scrapped for various reasons. First woman to publish scientific findings with the Royal Society was an astronomer named Caroline with what surname? In 1781, her brother William discovered a Georgian star that ended up being a new planet. So William Herschel is the guy who discovered, I think it's Uranus, it might be Neptune, but I think it's Uranus. I believe it's spelled like that with the C. It might be without the C, but it doesn't matter anyway. Shouldn't, at least. So, yeah, I've never heard of Caroline Herschel, but I think you're probably just supposed to get this through William Herschel. He's just, yeah, a famous astronomer who discovered Uranus. Question 2. Neonatal jaundice, a condition where newborn babies have a yellow tinge in the white parts of their eyes, most commonly occurs because what organ isn't developed enough to efficiently process bilirubin? So this is something I should probably know. I don't, for sure. My instinct is telling me that it's the liver, although I don't. I think that jaundice is something that's related to the liver, although I don't know for sure. I'm not very good with like biology and medical things, so I struggle with this kind of question, and it's going to be a little embarrassing if I'm wrong because I feel like this isn't that hard. Like the whole anyway. Hopefully this is right. I think it's hopefully the liver, but I just don't feel great about it. Question 3. In southwestern Russia, signs pointing across the border to Sukhum indicate the capital of what breakaway state that only Russia and 4 other UN member states recognize as an independent nation. So Sukhum, I figure, is the Russian name for Sukhumi, which is the capital of Abkhazia. I think that has to be what's going on. I mean, southwestern Russia, that is exactly where Abkhazia is. Abkhazia being a breakaway state in northwestern Georgia, or an independent country, depending on who you ask. But yeah, Abkhazia should certainly be the answer here. Question 4. Video broadcasts of what sport often use a technology called top tracer, which adds arcing graphics to a screen and provides statistics such as speed, curve, and carry. So, not too sure about this one. I was trying to think of what sports would have like these stats tracked. I mean, I thought of baseball, but I watch a lot of baseball, and if it was baseball, I would have heard of this. Also, like carry is, I mean, you could track carry. I mean, those are all reasonable things to track on a baseball, but I'm pretty sure it's not baseball. If it is, I've completely failed. But the other things that I thought of, tennis, I thought it made some sense. Again, like I don't know if curve is something that you would really measure much of when it comes to tennis. Not that the ball doesn't curve, but it's like maybe less of an interesting metric, which is why I feel a little better about golf, because golf, like, again, the speed of a ball, the curve of a ball, and the carry of a ball all seem like things that you would care about when somebody hits a golf ball, because there's a lot more of that sort of involved. Like the curving is much more of a significant thing in golf. So I don't know. I don't watch golf because I find it dreadfully boring, but I think this makes sense, at least. It's a guess, but I feel okay about it. Question 5. In the viral talent show performance titled Daft Bodies on YouTube, one person with the letters ER on her shirt jumps in front of 4 people in succession along to a song playing in the background. What 4 strings of characters are on the other 4 people's shirts? I have no idea what's going on here. Like, literally no idea. And the problem is, I've thought about this one for a bit. I've come up with absolutely nothing. And the problem is there's no way that I can guess this. You kind of just know it or you don't. So I could leave this blank, or I could just say, like, I don't know. Have zero idea. What's a 6-letter word that fits here? Lunacy. Okay. Yeah, this is anyway. Not a question I'm gonna get. I have no idea what's going on. I can't think. I mean, I don't know what ER would mean. Like emergency room, probably not. Like it's maybe it's like a suffix or something like blank, or like or it's just like or it's a prefix, or it's I don't know what the heck's going on. So I've given up trying to figure it out. Question 6. A poem about the Battle of Bunker Hill was the first known usage of what 3-word phrase, which now refers to the uncertainty in the field during military operations. This term is often represented literally in the in-game maps of strategy or exploration video games. So I want to say this is like Here Be Dragons, like Hic sunt Dracones, which is the Latin. What I'm worried about is that I thought that Here Be Dragons was like a thing that they would write on like ancient maps like a long time ago when they didn't know what was to a certain part, like for example like maps of Europe before Columbus discovered or discovered the new world. They didn't know what was to the west, so they would have like dragons and stuff that they like drew on the map, and they would be like here be dragons because they didn't know what was there. So I thought that was like an older thing. So if it's a poem about the Battle of Bunker Hill, I'm worried because that seems like it's much newer. But maybe that could be it because I can't think of another 3-word phrase that's like uncertainty on a map. So that's kind of, I feel like that's what I have to guess, even though I don't like this very much. Anyway, as for what to enhance, not 6, not 5, not 4, not 2. So it's 1 or 3. These are both definitely right. The question is, I mean, Abkhazia is difficult, but this is also a GeoGuessr server, and I always feel bad enhancing geography things. Because I don't think that Herschel is super well known either, but like Abkhazia, that's pretty hard, isn't it? Like, I feel like a lot of people don't know what that is. I'm actually going to enhance Abkhazia, which might be dumb enhancing anything geography, but it feels like a better thing to do. So that is what I am going to do. All right, Herschel, Uranus it was, Liver, Abkhazia, Golf. Oh, fog of war. Are you kidding me, man? Are you kidding me? That's what fog of, oh, for God's sake. I overthought that so much. Like, I play Civilization, for example. I have like many hundreds of hours playing Civilization. Like, the unknown part of the map is just called the fog of war. That's what people call it. But also, like, the thing that you write on the fog of war is here be dragons because you don't know what's there. Oh, that's so annoying. I should have known because I knew that here be dragons was like an older thing. Because like it's a Latin phrase. Like it's been around a long time. So it's a bit dumb of me to submit that, but also that's really annoying because I knew what was going on, but that's a skill issue. That's 100% a skill issue. And then harder, better, faster, stronger. Again, I was right about it being a suffix. I should have thought more about that. I don't know. I just didn't know what ER was. It felt like it could be anything. That was actually the right thought process. I mean, I have heard of that song. I don't really know how it goes, but again, that's a skill issue. I think again something I probably should have thought of. So 4 out of 6 is fine, but the 2 I missed felt quite gettable, whereas the one in the last one I was never going to get. So this is it's pretty annoying. That's pretty annoying. It stings a little bit, but still I think I did okay. Liver was correct, and I wasn't sure about that. Same with golf. So at the end of the day, I feel kind of okay with that. Quiz number 3. Pop culture. The Monsterverse, the cinematic universe created by the Toho Company's Kaiju Films, contains a 2017 film titled For an Island, named after what objects? A Marvel character who works under Hitler is named for and displays a red one of these objects. So this one took me a while, but I think I came up with a good guess. So I'm about to go on a really weird tangent, but kaiju, I think kaiju is like a Japanese word for like monsters, like Godzilla-esque type things. Because there was like a promo in like MLB The Show that was like kaiju, so that's where I learned that word. But I think it has something to do with like monsters, basically, which makes sense, obviously, MonsterVerse. Anyway, so it got me thinking about Godzilla and like what's a film that might have Godzilla or something similar in it. And I know there's a bunch of like recent films that are like Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. And I thought of Kong. And I know that there's a movie called Kong Skull Island, which is something that came out probably around that time. I've never seen any of these movies, by the way, because they're just so completely uninteresting to me. Like, I just don't care. But, you see ads, you see previews, and you watch other stuff. So anyway, I know that Kong Skull Island is a movie, so I figure Skulls is a pretty decent guess here. What I'm worried about is the Marvel thing, because I have no idea what the Marvel character is. But then again, I do not care about anything related to superheroes, so it's a very good chance that this is just a Marvel character I've never heard of because I don't pay attention to this. So I feel okay about this because I know that Kong Skull Island is a movie. Anyway, long way of describing how I got the skulls, but I think it's a good guess. The Shermerverse is the name given to a group of John Hughes films, including The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, that are all ostensibly set in the same building. What kind of building is it? So The Breakfast Club is about five kids who are in detention, basically, and they just like bond. It's as far as I remember what happens in that movie. I haven't seen it in like 15 years, but since they were in detention, I assume they were in a school building while they were in detention. I don't know what 16 Candles is. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it. But I think a schoolhouse or just a school is probably the type of building. The Thingiverse is an online repository dedicated for hobbyists of what activity to share digital files. The most downloaded file, a model boat referred to as Benchy, consists of 225,154 triangles and requires a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So this one took a good deal of noodling, but I think I came up with a pretty good answer. Hopefully this is 3D printing, which it could be something similar. I mean, I in my head I went through things like NFT collecting and whatever, but it's like a model boat. Like this is a digital file, and it's like a model boat that's small. I mean, 0.4 millimeters is obviously small. So like, what is an activity that's digital where you end up with modeled things? And again, this maybe it's just like Legos or something, but 225,000 triangles sounds like a 3D printed object that's like made of like little bits. Again, I don't know much about what 3D printing is or how it works, but I know it's just, you have a machine that you end up with like a little object essentially, whatever. I'm not explaining this very well at all, but I think that this guess again just makes sense based off of what I know of 3D printing and the way the question is phrased. It feels like this is hopefully what's going on. Like my physics teacher, for example, in ninth grade had some like 3D printed stuff that she would like pass around the class, and it's just like this little stuff made of plastic, and it's just like, okay, like maybe that's what's going on. Anyway, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, so I'm going to move on. Question 4. The Whoniverse, or the media franchise surrounding Doctor Who, is primarily TV based. However, it does include two films that were created in the 1960s, whose titles both mention what alien species speak in a robotic voice and can't climb stairs. So I know nothing about Doctor Who except that there are little metal dudes called Daleks, or Daleks, or whatever. So this is the only guess I'm ever going to come up with here, because again, I know nothing about Doctor Who. I don't care about Doctor Who, but this is, I know that a Dalek is like some kind of, I don't know if it's an alien or if it's just like a robot of some kind, but again, I have no better guess than this. If it's not that, then whatever. But again, I feel decent about it because, again, I think they're just like little robots that like move along the ground or whatever. So it wouldn't shock me if they couldn't climb stairs. Anyway, I don't know. Question 5, the massive Riordan verse, the sum total of Rick Riordan's mythology-focused children's books that began with a pentalogy about Percy Jackson. Greatest children's books of all time, by the way, or young adult books, not children's books, but freaking awesome. I love Percy Jackson, man. I grew up on that. It is the greatest stuff ever. Genuinely so fun, so well written, so it just gets you into mythology. It's, I don't know. I could sing its praises forever. I love Percy Jackson. Anyway, The Trials of Apollo is one of the series in the Riordan verse. I have not actually read The Trials of Apollo, but I've read Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, Kane Chronicles. Really good stuff. And finally, question 6, the word metaverse, which nowadays connotes a fever dream by Mark Zuckerberg, was first coined in 1992 sci-fi novel where the hero protagonist, tries to stop a Sumerian mind virus from spreading through the world. I have no clue what's going on here. Like, no idea. I'm going to say Ready Player One because I know that is a sci-fi novel that exists, and there was a movie made about it somewhat recently, and I do not have any better guess than this, so Ready Player One it is. And as for what to enhance, it's actually a good question. So I'm not confident enough that Dalek is correct. I feel like Apollo is easy. 6, I mean, yeah, mishandling of prophecies. Turn into a human. I mean, I don't know. How gettable is this myth clue? Like, maybe it's actually kind of difficult. How well known is the Riordan stuff? Like, I also don't know. I feel like, again, I feel like school is easy because I feel like the Breakfast Club is really famous. So I don't know if I want to go with that. Skulls is probably right. But again, if I know it, a lot of other people are probably going to know it, especially the Marvel character. Again, people just know superhero stuff. So 3D printing? I might actually enhance 5, which I don't know if that's a good decision, but I feel like the myth clue here isn't that trivial. And maybe the Trials of Apollo is maybe not that well known a thing either. I just know that because I know about Rick Rider and stuff, but maybe that's actually not that easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and enhance 5. It might be a mistake, but I'm going for it. Okay, so hold on, that one and that one. So what do we got? Snow crash. What the bloody hell is that? I actually got 5 on that. Wow, I will take that. Yeah. So Skull Island was right. I felt decent about that, but I wasn't sure. High school. Hopefully, I can just say school. I mean, I knew it was a high school. I just thought it's better to say school. Hopefully, school is accepted. 3D printing was correct. Happy with my reasoning on that one. Daleks, that was very lucky, but again, I knew that they were like little robot dudes on the ground, so I don't know why. I think I played like some kind of video game or something that had like Doctor Who in it, and it was like you had to like avoid the little Dalek dudes who were like moving along the ground. I don't know why I have this image in my head of what a Dalek is because I've never seen Doctor Who, but whatever. I did just enough, and then Apollo is correct. Snow Crash, I've never heard of in my life, so that was not happening. So again, that feels like it was basically my ceiling for that quiz. Same with quiz 1, so doing pretty well so far, aside from the couple unfortunate questions on quiz 2. On to quiz 4. Hello from a slightly extended Thanksgiving vacation in England. And this is a quiz written by Looney, who was in England at the time. So, one of the first stops was the Tate Modern, where he saw this famous pop art painting. Give the artist or the title. I mean, it's pop art, and honestly, there are literally 2 people who I associate with pop art, and they are Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. I'm not super familiar with either of their art, except Warhol I know did the Campbell's soup cans. I know he did the Marilyn Monroe thing. And this style looks kind of different to me. Like, I guess I wouldn't look at this and think this is definitely Andy Warhol. So I think I'm going to guess Lichtenstein instead. And then be sad when it is Warhol. But I'm really not familiar with Roy Lichtenstein's art, but I think he's more like I think it's more kind of comic-y than Warhol's. Like this feels right to me. I've looked up Roy Lichtenstein before. I just don't have a very good memory of any of his specific works. But I think this is a better answer than Andy Warhol, and then it's going to be Warhol anyway. But hopefully this is the right train of thought. Or it's just going to be some third person that I don't know. But anyway, it's the best guess I've got. Question 2, I also saw these cute pigeons. Behavior psychologist B.F. Skinner was most well known for his Skinner box, which he used to experiment on pigeons by giving them tasks to complete. With that box, Skinner was attempting to study the operant form of what process. So this is conditioning. The 2 forms of conditioning, at least the 2 forms of conditioning that are asked about in Quiz Bowl, which is where I get all of my knowledge from, is operant conditioning and classical conditioning. So classical, I think, is like Pavlov, and then operant conditioning, the most famous guy who did that is B.F. Skinner. So conditioning is definitely the answer here. Question 3, Parliament Square in front of Westminster Abbey. Fun display of flags representing various British territories and dependencies. Identify one of the labeled territories by listing both the chosen label and your answer. So honestly, I'm kind of glad that the first one is the British Indian Ocean Territory, because it's quite a distinctive flag because it has like the wave patterns on it. The others, I'm honestly not sure about, because these are just random territory flags that have Union Jacks in the top left. I think the red one is Bermuda, if I had to guess. Honestly, though, I've never learned territory flags, especially not the ones that are just Union Jack with a different little emblem on the right side. So I don't know what B and D are. Oh wait, there's no D. I didn't realize there was no D. So it's basically the three ones that aren't blue. But again, B, honestly, I'm not sure what that is. It could be like the Cayman Islands. It could be Pitcairn. I don't know. But A is definitely BIOT. So that's what I'll go with. Question 4. I also passed by Shakespeare's Globe, whose current showings include a version of Hansel and Gretel, blah, blah, blah. An author, Simon Armitage, is an author who currently occupies what position and will until 2029. Past holders of this include John Dryden and Alfred Lord Tennyson, and the current holder in the U.S. is Ada Limon. This, I believe, is the poet laureate. I think I associate John Dryden specifically with the poet laureate. But yeah, this is just a position that exists. I don't really know what the poet laureate is or what the point of it is, but it's just a person who's good at poetry, I guess. I don't know. But this is almost certainly going to be the answer. Question 5. Later in the trip, took a very delayed train to Oxford where we saw this fun carousel. Reminded me of a scene of a protagonist watches his sister Phoebe ride a carousel at the end of The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. It's a book that we read in high school. I think a lot of Americans do. But Phoebe is the sister of Holden Caulfield, and phonies are... he loves to use the word phony to describe anything that he thinks is fake or superficial. Question 6. Oxford's tradition of Oxford time, where activities regularly run at 5 minutes past the hour instead of on the dot, inspired what literary character signature constant tardiness? In fact, his first line is, oh dear, I shall be too late. An answer containing at least an adjective and a noun is required. So this, I think, after a little bit of thinking, I came up with the... I think it's the March Hare from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The one who, like, shows up and takes her down the rabbit hole or whatever, and that's the whole point. She goes down the rabbit hole, I guess. So I think the March Hare is the name of the rabbit, or, you know, the hare in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So that, I think, is what I'll go with. As for what to enhance, that's a great question. I feel like conditioning maybe is the play here. Because I feel like operant conditioning, again, I know that through Quiz Bowl, but I feel like that's not that well known, although I might be wrong. But don't want to enhance geography. Poet laureate feels gettable. Catcher in the Rye is easy for anyone American, so I don't think I want to do that. This one too, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Alice in Wonderland is pretty well known. I feel like that, I don't know, I feel like that's gettable. I don't know anything about Alice in Wonderland, and I was able to get to it anyway, so I think I'll go with number 2. And motorcycles, I guess that and that, except not the head. That'll work. Roy Lichtenstein, operant conditioning, BIOT is correct. It's British Antarctic Territory is the white one. That makes sense. Poet laureate, Catcher in the Rye, White Rabbit. What? Oh no. What? Oh dear God. Is that a different character? Is the White Rabbit different from the March Hare? I swear there's a March Hare. Am I going crazy? I think there's a character called the March Hare. Is that a different character? That's crazy. God damn it. Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't enhance that. I was thinking about it. What? It must be a different character. Why did I not know that there was a rabbit and a hare? Okay. Well, I guess I learned that the hard way. That's really annoying. It did say adjective and noun, which, again, I thought March was maybe a little bit weird as an adjective, but I don't know. It's March Hare. I mean, March describes the hare, so I figured... I just thought the character was called the March Hare. Oh, no. Okay, that's tough, but Liechtenstein was correct, so I'm happy about that, and the rest I knew, so not bad. 5 out of 6. We take those anyway, but a bit unfortunate. Question 6. Quiz 5, we have a nice geography quiz. Well, I say nice, although one of them I actually don't know, which is making me sad. But anyway, question 1, this is all about straits, by the way. Name both the island on the northern side of the Torres Strait and the island on the southern side of the Bass Strait. The Torres Strait is northern Australia between the Cape York Peninsula and New Guinea. At least I'm pretty sure it's New Guinea. And then the Bass Strait is what separates Victoria from Tasmania. So this is New Guinea and Tasmania. Question 2. The channel separating the Andaman Islands from the Nicobar Islands is named for what line of latitude which passes through the channel? Your answer should consist of both the number of degrees, which is a multiple of 10, and either degrees or either north or south. So this one took a little bit of noodling, but I think I have hopefully the answer. I'm not 100% sure, but I know where the equator is roughly. I mean, I know it passes through like whatever, like Kenya and goes east, and then it passes through like Indonesia. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are they're part of India. They're east of India and a little bit south as well, if my rough estimations are correct. But the key piece of knowledge here was that I was playing a Tropic of Cancer map for the GeoGuessr Challenge League probably 2 months ago, and I remember looking at what countries are on this map, and I remember there were very few, but one of them was Bangladesh. So that tells me that the Tropic of Cancer passes through Bangladesh, which the Tropic of Cancer I think is like 23.5 degrees north, if I'm not wrong, because that's like the precession of the Earth's axis or whatever. So if Bangladesh is at 23.5 and this thing is a multiple of 10, I don't think 20 makes sense because the Andaman Islands are not that close to Bangladesh. Like they're well further south. Like they're more in line with like southern India rather than the area up by Bangladesh. So I feel like the answer has to be 10. I'm worried about 20, but not like that worried because if it's 20, that means that my estimation, my mental image of where the Andaman and Nicobar Islands is really wrong. But I feel like they're just more south, and it makes more sense to me that they'd be about halfway between Bangladesh and Indonesia latitude-wise than them being that close to Bangladesh. So that's my reasoning there. Question 3. Depending on the source, the strait on the west side of Sakhalin that connects the Sea of Okhotsk and the Sea of Japan is either named for what broad group of ethnicities or for the swath of land that they inhabited, which stretched across much of Central Asia. This group also lends their name to a type of tangy dipping sauce. So I am really frustrated at this question because I don't know what this is. And I feel like my geography knowledge is obviously like very good, and I usually know things like this, like bodies of water and land masses and stuff like that. This is the type of thing I usually know, but I don't know what this is, which is really bugging me. The one I know is the La Perouse Strait, which is what separates Sakhalin from Hokkaido, which in my mind is what separates the Sea of Okhotsk from the Sea of Japan. But this is asking for the strait that separates Sakhalin from the Russian mainland, which is not something I've ever heard of. So this is tough. And then it's like, okay, what broad group of ethnicities, what are we talking about? Stretched across much of Central Asia, tangy dipping sauce. The first thing I thought of was like the Sichuan sauce from like McDonald's or whatever, but I don't think that makes sense because that's much more localized. I don't think that the Sichuan people were all over Central Asia. The only, like, I'm so confused. The only ethnicity I can think of that stretched across much of Central Asia is like the Mongols, which is there something called Mongol sauce? And is it called the Mongol Strait? Like that seems really unlikely because it just doesn't sound right. I've never heard of Mongol sauce. And the Mongol Strait being between Sakhalin and mainland Russia also sounds just very incorrect. But I don't know what else this would be. Like that's what's bugging me. It's like what are we talking about? And I think I'm just going to give up because I've been thinking about this for a while and I haven't thought of anything. It's like this feels like something I should know, but I wish they had asked for La Perouse because it's like I know that, but I don't know. I don't have this. I'm stumped and I'm just going to have to give up. Question 4. The vast majority of the population of Great Britain's Channel Islands can be found on what two islands? This would be Jersey and Guernsey. Yeah, and then there are a couple others like Alderney, etc. But those are the two big ones with all the people on them. Question 5. The picture below shows the northeast extent of what strait? So we're clearly in Turkey because we have all the Turkish language. I think that this one is the Dardanelles because the Bosphorus is the one it's the other main Turkish strait, but the Bosphorus is like Istanbul and it's like downtown Istanbul. You know what? Is it? Okay, I'm kind of scared because Euros Kalesi. See, I think of the Bosphorus as being quite short and also being extremely urban. Like, oh man, but is it? But there's a ferry. There's a ferry going. Would there be a ferry going into the Black Sea from Istanbul? Yeah, maybe, because it could go to like Odessa or something like that. Oh my god. I actually, I thought it was the Dardanelles, and now I'm questioning myself. Is there a good way to figure out which one it is? Because they both have roughly the same angle in my head. For those who aren't clear with what I'm talking about, the Dardanelles is the strait that connects the Mediterranean to the Sea of Marmara, and then the Bosphorus is where Istanbul is, and it connects Marmara to the Black Sea. But my God, maybe it is the Bosphorus because at least in the southwest of the picture, you see like it looks urban, like it turns white and there's streets. Whereas the Dardanelles, I think of it as being pretty rural. I mean, there's like Çanakkale and stuff, but like Gallipoli. What would it? Hold on. Let me think. With the Dardanelles, would it open? Man, the northwest of the picture, the way the water kind of opens up, it maybe is the Black Sea because Gallipoli like kind of sticks out, but I don't know if it like curves like that. I'm gonna switch to Bosphorus, which I hope I'm not wrong because I think of the Bosphorus as being so urban, but maybe it is this. Man, this is hard because it's like there are two options, but it's not that clear which one it is. Anyway, I'm gonna be really sad if it is the Dardanelles because I've talked myself out of that. But anyway, I've been thinking about this one for long enough, so I'm gonna move on. Question 6. Name either the adjective that names the passage between Cuba and Hispaniola or the related adjective that names a group of islands roughly 750 miles southeast of the passage. I'm glad that he used the word passage here, not strait, because I was thinking about it for a bit and then I realized I have heard of the Windward Passage. So I'm pretty sure that. I misread the question. The question's a lot more reasonable now. So he's asking me to name either windward or leeward. The related adjective is leeward. I was thinking the answer had to be windward. And I was going to be like, well, if you've heard of the islands, given the Leeward Islands and the Windward Islands are like right next to each other, that's kind of evil if they expect you to say windward, but you say leeward because you haven't heard of the strait. But now that I read it again, he's saying name either the Windward Passage or the Leeward Islands, which means either one is fine. So that's a lot more reasonable, I think. Okay, so now the question is, what the heck do I enhance here? New Guinea, Tasmania, I think is easy, comparatively. 10 degrees north feels very guessable. I feel like a lot of people won't be confident, but they'll get it anyway. And I'm also not positive that I'm right. 3, I think I'm wrong. 4 is easy. 6, do I enhance 6 here? Because 5, I'm worried I'm wrong about 5. I'm going to go safe and enhance 6, even though it's going to get me fewer points, probably. I feel like 5, it might be the Dardanelles, and I don't want to do that to myself, so 6 it is. I feel like for a geography quiz, this honestly has not gone very well compared to how I normally do, but there's some tough ones in here. It is the Bosphorus. Thank God for that. Okay, New Guinea and Tasmania, 10 degrees north. Tatars. What? Wow, what the heck? Tartars? Tartars? I've never heard them called Tartars. What the heck? I've only ever seen the word Tatar. I didn't think of Tatars in the first place, which is a skill issue. And if I had, maybe I would have made the connection. But Tatar and Tartar, I mean, the sauce is tartar sauce. I don't know. If I had thought of Tatars, I guess maybe I would have thought Tatar sauce and then thought maybe that's tartar sauce. But even then, it would have been imperfect. So I would have been doubtful because Again, I've never heard Tartars used to refer to them. I've only ever heard Tatars. In the Tatar Strait, or the Strait of Tartary, I have never heard of that. That's crazy. Okay, well, I am glad that Bosphorus was correct, and I'm glad that 10 degrees north was correct. But still, not getting 6 out of 6 on a geo quiz still feels a bit rough for me. But then again, these specifically are written to be quite difficult, so it's not that bad. I think, yeah, Tatars, that's just unfortunate. I should have thought of that, but also I'm kind of surprised that I've never heard of the strait before. But, well, there you go. Now I am never going to forget what it's called. All right, quiz 6. We're 40 minutes in. We're doing okay. Quiz 6. Serial killer H.H. Holmes reportedly killed up to 200 people in his murder castle, a building he'd commissioned in what city? He was most active around the 1893 World's Fair, which was hosted by this city and was represented by one of the stars on the city's flag. I believe this is Chicago. I'm not very good at knowing who the serial killers are and what they did. But Chicago, I know, has 4 stars on its flag, so it makes sense. I know that they hosted a World's Fair. That also makes sense. I feel like that's just the most reasonable guess here. Question 2. The French serial child murderer Gilles de Rais first came to prominence when commanding French troops in what war? Joan of Arc probably should have been more afraid of de Rais when he guarded her during this war's siege of Orléans. Pretty sure Joan of Arc was the 100 Years' War. Not 100% sure, but I'm like 90% sure that that was the 100 Years' War. So I feel okay about that, although I've never heard of Gilles de Rais before, but interesting knowledge anyway. Question 3, I'm very happy about because this came up very recently. 16th century noblewoman with allegedly vampiric and murderous tendencies was the subject of a film subtitled Countess of Blood, is a namesake of a Swedish black metal band and is commonly referred to with the first name Elizabeth. Was from what country? So this is Elizabeth Bathory, I believe is her name. Don't say Bathory, say Hungary. But she is Hungarian. And this is like what she's known for. I looked her up. So I don't know if you guys, some of you guys may have watched like my streams where I play that catfishing, like Wikipedia category guessing game after I play Cactus League or whatever. Anyway, she came up in a catfishing week that I was doing together with Looney, who is he the one who wrote this? Yes. I wonder where he got that from. Anyway, but Elizabeth Bathory, I had not heard of this person, but I looked her up and like read her Wikipedia article because I was interested in this, and it was honestly pretty interesting. But yeah, she was from Hungary. Question 4. The Dear Boss and From Hell letters, which were written in 1888 and describe planned acts of murder and cannibalism, are most generally attributed to a person known by what first name? Not sure about this one, but this is a question, or this is a quiz about serial killers, and the only reasonable thing I could think of for this, a serial killer known by a first name, and I guess not a last name, is just Jack the Ripper, which I think hopefully fits the time frame, although if you asked me when Jack the Ripper was around, I might have said a little bit later than this, but I think the time frame is probably roughly correct. And again, I can't think of another serial killer who is known by a first name and not a last name. I mean, there's like Zodiac Killer or whatever, but that's, that's not a first name. And then the others are just known by their full names. So Jack the Ripper is the only guess I could come up with here. Question 5, a New Orleans serial killer who was active in the late 1910s was given a public nickname referencing his use of what weapon? Lizzie Borden used this weapon on her parents. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks or something like that is the poem. But the weapon was an axe. And then question 6, the Stoneman, an Indian serial killer, or stone man, I guess, known for using a single stone to murder his victims, originated in Mumbai, but later moved to what city? In 1989, where he committed his more notorious crimes. Siraj-ud-Dowlah, the city's last independent ruling Nawab, had his forces defeated by the British at the 1757 Battle of Plassey. So I've heard of the Battle of Plassey. Unfortunately, I don't remember where it was, other than like in India. So that's not going to help. And I feel like it's lame to guess the capital or boring to guess the capital, and it's going to end up being something else. But I'm just going to guess Delhi because I know that like the Delhi Sultanate was a thing. So Delhi used to be Muslim. I mean, I think all of India probably was maybe at some point, or a lot of it. I mean, you had like the Mughal Empire and everything. So realistically, I think most parts of India were Muslim at some point. But I don't have a better guess than Delhi anyway. I mean, it could be, I don't know. It could be a lot of things, realistically. It could be Bengaluru. It could be Kolkata. It could be Agra, whatever. But I don't know. Delhi's as good a guess as any, even if it's maybe a boring answer for it to just be the capital. But again, capital, I mean, I know the capital's New Delhi, but whatever. That's technicalities. Anyway, I am yapping way too much, which I do every time. But yeah, I'm going to say Delhi for this. And then finally, I will enhance Hungary because I think this Elizabeth Bathory thing is not that well known. Jack the Ripper feels easy. Lizzie Borden feels easy enough. If Jack the Ripper's right, that is. If it's Jack the Ripper, then a lot of people are going to get it. 100 Years' War, again, knowable history, I think. Chicago, knowable history. I think Elizabeth is definitely a lot harder than the rest. So yeah, 3 it is. And Chicago, 100 Years' War, Elizabeth Bathory, Jack the Ripper, Axe, Calcutta. Dang it. Okay. That's one of the ones I mentioned. I mean, I was just listing the largest cities in India, but, makes sense. I just didn't know where the Battle of Plassey was, which, again, skill issue, but I think that's fine. I am okay with that result, so 5 out of 6. I'm still doing quite well. I don't think I've gotten 6 yet, but I think I've done quite well on almost all of them, so still pretty happy with how it's gone so far. Finally, a child walks on 4 legs, a younger man walks on 2 legs, and an older man walks on 3 legs, according to a mythical riddle that was given to the Sphinx by the Sphinx to what man? This is Oedipus. This is famously the riddle that Oedipus solves when, what is it? The Sphinx, there's like a plague in Thebes or whatever, and the Sphinx is like they are guarding the city and keeping the bad things happening and eating everyone who fails the riddle, and that Oedipus is like, yo, it's man. And then he saved the city and he became a hero and then went on to do you know what. Anyway, question 2. What religious figure was legendarily born from his mother's right side, after which he stood and took 7 steps? As a young adult, this figure would encounter old, sick, and dead people for the first time, after which he devoted himself to a life of asceticism. So I don't know, but who's a guy who devoted himself to a life of asceticism? Maybe Buddha or Siddhartha Gautama, because he was just like, damn, the world kind of sucks, and why don't I sit under a tree for 20 years or whatever and not want or desire anything? So I think that's roughly what the Buddha did, which I think fits the clue, although I've never heard of the birth story, so I might just have the wrong guy. The serpent Jormungandr, the wolf Fenrir, and the horse Sleipnir are among the children of what Norse god, who is himself a child of the giants Laufey and Farbati. This is Loki. These are all children of Loki, probably the most famous children of Loki, who is the Norse trickster god. Question number 4. Infants start in the sensory motor stage of development, and as they grow up, move through the pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational stages, according to what Swiss psychologist's model of child development? This is Jean Piaget, who is, again, like... I don't really know that much about who this guy is, other than he studied children and is a famous psychologist who is from Switzerland. That's all I need to know. A lot of my knowledge is fairly surface level, but I just know a lot of random things, which works for trivia. Question 5. Children are among the many groups to exhibit a linguistic phenomenon involving a picture like the one below in 2 nonsense words. Across age-based, linguistic, and cultural divides, participants have consistently associated one of the nonsense words with the spiky shape and the other with the round shape, likely due to the sound of each word. There are 4 nonsense words with which this experiment is conducted, organized in 2 pairs. Name any one of the 4 words most commonly used in this experiment. So that was a lot of talking just to arrive at no answer whatsoever. I have no clue what's going on here. I've never heard of this. But I will say... What will I say? I thought I came up with a guess for this. Bobo, I think is what I came up. I know, like the Bobo doll experiment is a thing. This isn't the same thing. Like the Bobo doll experiment is something with a doll rather than a blob in it. So, but Bobo sounds kind of like a nonsense word. So I'm just gonna say Bobo, even though I'm sure that this is wrong. But I just have no clue what this is. Finally, experiments performed on birds by psychologist Konrad Lorenz showed that if Lorenz was the first being that newborn birds were exposed to, they followed him as if he was their mother. This is an example of what psychological phenomenon in which young children grow attached to and often mimic their primary caregivers. Again, I have no idea. I thought of latching was the word that I came up with, like latching onto something or someone, which, you know, makes sense, but that's probably not the formal term. But again, this is not a term that I'm aware of, or maybe it is and I'm being silly, but I cannot think of anything that seems right for this, so I'm just going to guess something that could mean that. And then finally, enhancing Buddha. If it is Buddha, it's easy. If it's not Buddha, I'm wrong. Loki, probably too easy. Oedipus, probably too easy. So I think Piaget is probably the toughest one that I feel good about. So 4 it is. And we will see. Yeah, it's a car, yeah. Yeah, looks good. I disagree, but okay. Bridges, that one, that one, that one. Seems good. All right. Filial imprinting. Wow. Never heard of it. Kiki or Booba? I mean, Bobo was kind of close. It's wrong, and I think I shouldn't get credit for that. But that was really close. I feel like by Quiz Bowl vowel rules, Bobo might actually be acceptable if I said that out loud. But that's wrong. And again, I was thinking of the Bobo doll experiment, so I don't deserve credit for that. I was just like, what's an experiment that's named after a nonsense word? And I was like, maybe Bobo's a nonsense word. But again, I knew it was a different thing. So I think that's 4 out of 6, unless they're really lenient about question 5. But Piaget was correct. The Buddha was correct. Perfectly happy with that. So I feel like I did quite decently across the board. I don't think I got 6 on any of them. But I think that on the whole, it was, I think, a pretty solid performance. I'm going to guess that I'm 4th here because it feels, well, okay, maybe I'm a little lower. I don't know. I don't think I did well enough to get 39, but I feel like I might be in the 35, 36 kind of range. So I think it was a solid week. No 6s is a bit tough, but I think I got 5s on a lot of them. So still a solid performance. I've said that like 5 times. I'm going to stop saying it, and I will see you guys when my score actually shows up on the spreadsheet. All right, as predicted, the final position was 4th. I did finish just above the folks below me, but still a couple points behind the people ahead of me. A couple unfortunate mistakes this week with the March Hare incident was definitely unfortunate. And I looked at the answer stats, and apparently the last 2 questions on the psych quiz, both of which I had never, ever heard of, were both easier than Oedipus, which is really interesting to me and just shows how, I guess, weird and skewed my knowledge base is. But anyway, it was fun. I got a lot of 5s. I mean, I got 5 on 5 of the quizzes and then 4 on 2 of them, which pretty consistent performance across the board. Maybe my most consistent performance yet. But yeah, happy with 4th, 2nd in week 1, 4th in week 2. That is perfectly fine by me. And then the overall standings look, we don't have overall standings. So I don't feel like adding them up right now. So anyway, you guys can add them up if you want. But this is how the top 3 looks for the week. Congrats to Saluna, Solar Sensei, and Rasmus for finishing at top 3. Very, very close to each other in terms of scores, but very nicely played by all of them. Thank you all for watching this video. I appreciate it, and I will see you guys next week for week number 3. Until then.